Hi everyone, so as promised, I'm going to do a video on domain and range in both set and interval notation. I'm going to do set notation first for this blue graph here. So for my domain, I'm going to look at all my x values that are plotted on this blue graph, and it appears to be where I'm highlighting here. So if you carefully look, there's no blue graph over here or down here. The blue graph starts here and goes this way. So my x values must start along with the blue graph. They start at -2, so that will be my smallest value, and then I have to say, do I include it or not when I write my inequality sign. In this case, I do not include -2 because I have a hollow hole. So hollow means do not include. Then I say x is a real number, and I close my bracket. Real numbers are signified by the line. Notice there is no upper bound on my x value here because the graph keeps going. So the arrow means it keeps going, which means x goes to infinity. There's no highest value, so all I have to say is it's the real numbers greater than 2. And I'm done. For my range, I now have to look at my y values here on my graph. There's none down here, right? There's no y values plotted here until 2, and it looks like they cap off at 5. So in my inequalities, I want to write all the y values between 2 and 5 because they're all plotted on these lines here. So that means 2, y, and 5, and I need to put my inequalities in. In this case, I will include both 2 and 5 because a line means a point is plotted there, so I have my y points plotted at 2 and at 5, even though there's a hole there. That doesn't matter for my y values because I have lots of points there which clearly have a y value of 2, and ones up here which clearly have a y value of 5. Y will also be in the real numbers. I close my set brackets, and that's it. So remember, when you're doing these, you always start the same way, then just specify the range of values here. So in this case, 2 to 5, put your inequalities in, and then choose whether or not you have the greater than or equal to signs, the little line underneath, or not, based on whether you include the endpoint. Next, I want to do interval notation. So let's start with the domain. Interval notation starts with x, and I say x is contained in an interval. An interval is always between two numbers separated by a comma. Here, if I look at my x values, I can clearly see there's a maximum one at 3, and as I go to my left here, since the graph keeps going, my x values are also going to keep going. So there's no lowest one, or I say -infinity. So my two values that x are going to be bounded between would be -infinity and 3. In this case, I would use a round bracket for -infinity and a square on 3. Remember, square means I include 3. Here, this time, I have a solid point, a solid endpoint, which means include. So my x value of 3 is included. I always use a round bracket for infinity or -infinity because we never quite get there. Now I'm going to talk about my range. So for my range, I'm going to look at my y values and see which two numbers are bounded for my y values. If I look here, I see a maximum one at y equals 4, but if I go down, there's no minimum. The graph keeps going, so y, I would say, also goes all the way to -infinity. So my lowest y value I would write is -infinity. My highest one would be 4, signified by this 4 right there, pointed at the solid dot, which means I include it. -infinity I don't include, and that would complete my interval notation for my range, -infinity to 4. Next, I don't have a line in this green graph here. I just have 3 points plotted. So just a reminder of what to do there. When you're talking about your domain, it's easiest just to list a set and list all the x values plotted in my domain, which in this case is only 3, 2, 3, and 4, so I can just put each in separated by a comma, and I'm done. Likewise for the range, I'm going to use set brackets. I'm going to look at my y values. I see I start at 3, then I have 4, then I have 5. So 3, 4, and 5, I would be done. One thing that would not be correct here is if you did your range and you said y is contained in the interval from 3 to 5. This is not correct, so don't do that, because that implies that y could equal 4.5, for example. Yes, but 4.5 is not plotted on my graph. So don't do that. When you see dots, just list them off one by one, like both of those there. Okay, I hope that helped clear that up a bit. Good luck on the quiz tomorrow.